evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Georgia-Alabama Sports Live Show, live from Glynn Smith Chevrolet GMC and in their showroom, as we do every single month. To my right is my partner in crime. You know him. It's Richie Rich Holdridge. And to my left is a special guest. He is the one and only from the War Report, Mike G. Mike, thank you so much for joining us,
man. Man, thanks for having me here at Glynn Smith. Look, we're into the college football season. It feels like it just started yesterday, and now it's almost over.
Yeah, exactly right. Again, the War Report, you can find them on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. They do all things Auburn, but he also covers all of college football. He is one of the bright minds in the media landscape for college football. And thank you so much again for joining us for the first time. But me and him, we do our Sports Visions radio show with DJ Jones. That's how we met each other. I'm like, hey, man, come up to Opelika. Let me get you on the Georgia-Alabama Sports Live Show, and let's talk some college football like we do on Sports Visions every Monday and Thursday. All right, we are presented by Glynn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Also, Pepsi. Make sure to get you a Starry, which I think is the best lemon lime soda around. I won't even mention the other one. We don't say the other one's name here, Mike, okay? We only drink Starry. That's
right.
The premier lemon lime soda. Thank you to Buffalo Rock for their sponsorship. And also thank you to Gordy Eye Care, the official eye care of Georgia-Alabama Sports Live. All right, Mike, let's go ahead and bring you in. I kind of want you to introduce yourself to our audience. That, for those who don't know, which I feel like a lot of our audience knows who you are. What is the War Report? How'd you get it started? And how did it turn into this giant?
Well, I don't want to bore everybody, but my name is Mike G. I'm from the War Report. We cover all of Auburn sports. We're an independent media outlet, Thrift, that brings fans a little bit something different, but we're credentialed by the university. We sit down with players. We sit down with Coach Freeze. We sit down. I've just gotten into covering volleyball and women's basketball as well this year, too. So lots of great things happening on the Plains. We're just bringing Auburn fans more content, right? More of the things they want to see, more things from the players themselves. And I think one of our big missions is to humanize the athlete to the fan base. Because you know how it's ruthless out there. Like, you mess up and you're just a jersey and a number to a lot of fans. And now when they get a chance to hear from the athletes themselves, I think that it helps. It helps improve the fan culture and attitude around sports, which is something that we aim to do. But also, I mean, just follow us on YouTube. And listen, if you want to hear more Thrift, you go over to YouTube and turn on Locked on UCF. This guy is
pulled me in.
Yeah, we're talking about Gus Malzahn.
I can't get rid of Gus, man. I can't get him out of my life.
Yeah,
Mike.
Me too. I started a whole show on it, and then I made you do it with me. So, yeah, please go check us out over there too.
Yeah, man, and I appreciate you letting me come on Auburn Express, which is a part of the War Report, and love giving my prediction, which I'm going to get you to give a prediction on this show, and you're probably going to do the same thing tomorrow on the Sports Vision show. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into it. Let's talk some Auburn football right now, man. All right, on this show, we talk a lot of high school football. We do keep up with Auburn and Georgia, but because of how many schools that we cover, we haven't covered it as much as we have in the past, but the last time we did talk about Auburn, this was back in early September, dude.
Yes.
Okay? And this is before the California game. I came on this show, and I said Peyton Thorne was going to break Damian Craig's record for most passing yards in a season. Cam Coleman was going to be a freshman sensation, and this Auburn team was going to go 9-3. That has been the complete opposite. They are 3-5. Mike, is this, in your opinion, the most disappointing Auburn season that we've seen in quite some time? And I'm even going back to those Gus Malzahn days, because at least you're making a bowl game, you're winning 8 or 9 games.
Yeah.
We're talking about having a losing season and going 5-7, 4-8. I mean, nobody thought they were going to do that.
Yeah, the only reason it's not, I mean, 2012 obviously was 3-9, so that was pretty disappointing. The coach got fired that year, but recruiting has kept a lot of the attitude up about Auburn football. Right now, they're top 4 in the country in recruiting, and I think if Q Freeze can continue to recruit at that level, fans are going to extend him some more grace until he goes out and he finds a quarterback that can do this. But they brought in the best wide receiver haul in the country last year. All those guys contributed. Last week versus Kentucky on the goal line stand, there were 6 freshmen in on that play on defense, stopping Kentucky from getting into the end zone. So you can see the potential is there, even though it hasn't paid off in record. Statistically, Auburn football is moving forward. They've just got to figure out a way to close games and scheme up something a little better to get more out of the talent that they have. Auburn is Auburn's got a bright future, I think. Hugh Freeze his feet are gonna be to the fire next year. I know you were bullish.
Yeah, come on, man. We're talking about this on Sports Vision about the future being bright. I guess it's kind of like what side of the coin you're looking on. Yeah.
I was less bullish, but it was about knowing that those growing pains were going to be there this year, and it was easy to see the talent. I don't blame you. Look, they almost made me change my prediction by the summer because after spring and talking to the players, it was clear that they had something potentially special going there. Now, Auburn hasn't given up. They've given up 30 points one time this year. That's it. Look around college football, man. Look how many good teams have given up way more points than that. Defensively, this team is solid. They've just got to find something offensively, and it's going to take some time, but you got to get quarterback right. And I think that's where a lot of fans are at. Peyton Thorne has been a disappointment.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, I did see some positives in the Kentucky game. Even though Peyton Thorne threw an interception, they ran the football with Jarquez Hunter.
They did.
And that defense, even though they were down 10-0, they were able to win the football game 24-10. Now, you're going to be at the game against Vanderbilt, noon kickoff at the Plains.
Yeah.
That is a winnable game for Auburn. I think the Vanderbilt's going to probably turn back
into a
pumpkin.
Think about what you just said, though.
That is a winnable game for Auburn.
Every time you play Vanderbilt, if you're Auburn, it should be a winnable game, and that's where we're at right now. I'm not disagreeing with you.
What has Vanderbilt done on the road?
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that's where Auburn's at, and that's where Vanderbilt's at. And you're literally saying this could be a winnable game for the Auburn
Diego
Tigers.
Pavea has history of upsetting Auburn. Look at the New Mexico State game last year.
He's got a history of upsetting Hugh Freeze.
Yeah.
But, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think what's happening with Vanderbilt is kind of a microcosm of what we talk about when we talk about coaching and development. Mm-hmm. There's no world where Vanderbilt is a more talented team than Alabama.
No.
But
no, not at all.
They schemed up something for their guys that they could execute, and they executed to perfection, and they got one of the biggest upsets that we've seen in college football in quite some time.
Right.
I think people expect that same level of coaching out of Auburn. Now, you mentioned Jarquez Hunter on Saturday versus Kentucky. Look, Jarquez, they should have been doing that with him
from the very
all
beginning.
season.
From the beginning.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You put way too much faith in Peyton Thorne's arm, and you forgot you've got a potential first, second round draft pick at running back. I voted him preseason All-SEC. My peers did as well, too, out at media days. And somehow they got away from that. What they did on Saturday was they did not get away from the run when they stopped it early in the game. And you stuck with it, and then what did we get? We got an all-time performance by Jarquez Hunter on the ground, 278 yards and 2 tutties. Come on, man.
Unbelievable.
And you've got to continue to feed him, and you've got to live or die with the result. Now, I'll take you back to Georgia. You're going into the fourth quarter of that game, and it's 21-10, and it's 4th and 1. And instead of just handing the ball to Jarquez, Peyton keeps it, it gets stopped, and it's like, look, man, maybe that play still gets stopped if you give it to Jarquez, but if you give it to him and it gets stopped, nobody's killing you after the game.
Exactly.
Right? So they've just got to get back to giving the ball to your best playmakers. I tweeted this out before the game. I said the game plan needs to be get the ball to 8, get the ball to 27, get the ball to 5, and get the ball to 11. That's right. Malcolm Simmons, Keandre Lambert-Smith, Jarquez Hunter, and Cam Coleman, and that's exactly what they did.
And keep the ball out of number 1's hands. And Peyton Thorne.
That's true.
So he doesn't make mistakes. We talked about game
he's going to make mistakes. Yeah. I think the thing is, nobody expects a perfect game from Peyton. What you need to do is you need to give him the plays that he can make and take away the plays that he's prone to mess up.
Yep.
And stay out of a position where you're dependent on his arm to bring you back at the ends of games.
This is the type of conversation you're going to be getting on the War Report every single day. I don't want to go in too much detail because me and Mike had the same conversation literally just last night. We're going to talk about it on Sports Visions. And you can watch Unsolicited Hot Take that's going to be coming up tomorrow here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live YouTube channel and Thrift Behringer Facebook page. Plus, we got a bunch of other topics that I want to get into, Mike, with you. Who's the top dog in the SEC? Because, and I do that with a pun, because DOAG, because it is the Georgia, as Mike can't stand the cliche and the corniness, but Georgia's the best team in the country. They're the best team in the SEC. That Alabama loss is starting to look more and more flukish than it did when it actually happened. That first half when they gave up 28 points, if they played 9 times out of 10, that scenario would never happen, Mike.
I tried to tell DJ, Georgia had one bad half of football this year. Yeah. That's their season. One bad half against Alabama. And then look what they did in the second half. how many teams you know can turn it around offensively on the road in Tuscaloosa like they did this season? Georgia has been my number one. I thought they were the best team in the country last year and got left out of the playoffs. Greg Sankey agrees with me because I asked him that immediately.
You did.
And at the end of the day, you're looking at it and you're thinking they're loaded with talent. It may not be as flashy as it was with Brock Bowers last year, but still, they've got talent all over that field. I loved seeing what they did this past Saturday. There was a lot of bluster about Georgia and what could they do, and they come out and they're blowing people out again. It took them a while to find their groove, but Kirby Smart has set the standard for development and what development looks like when it's consistent. The only other coach we've seen do it at this level just retired, and that was Nick Saban. So you got coaches who can recruit, and you got guys who can develop, and I think that Kirby Smart is the mix of those two. Don't tell DJ though, because Jalen's supposed to get the Heisman, and
Listen,
that was back.
I'm gonna have my guy DJ's back in that because I was high on Jalen Milroe, but obviously winning the Heisman, especially after that Georgia game, and now he's not even close. Because the favorite right now is Dylan Gabriel, and then Cam Ward, and then Travis Hunter. Those are the three favorites right now. Milroe's not even in the top 5.
Hunter's. But I think he's done a magnificent job having a team over 500 at this point in the season. We've seen how wrong it can go for other teams because nobody imagined Auburn being at 3-5 at this point in the season. But given that there were reports that a Board of Trustees meeting had been called mid-season to emergency, like fire him, and they were like, we raised his buyout already, and he just went out there, stayed focused, and won games, and I've been very impressed. This is going to be a good game between Georgia and Florida. Ultimately, I think Georgia comes out on top, guys, but Florida has found their quarterback. Lagway's their guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we can agree Lagway's their guy.
Yeah.
So lots of great football in the SEC. There's so many good storylines in the SEC this year. Now that it's no longer people expecting it to just be default Georgia and Alabama in the SEC championship game.
Right.
Look at how many great storylines we have going on in the conference.
And one of them being Texas A&M, when you actually get a guy that knows what he's doing at the head coach position, changes the culture, same talent, even though they had a lot of transfers. This team is a top 10 team compared to what Jimbo did. And I want to quote a guy that we both respect in Josh Pate. He said this at the beginning of the season about Florida. Their record may not be indicative of how improved this team is from the past 2 seasons. And obviously you're seeing this is a much better Florida team. The problem is, if you've seen the rest of their schedule, they're probably still going to finish 5-7 or 6-6. Is that good enough to stay, even though they've gotten better and they're a better team than last year? I don't know how Florida fans are going to handle that, and I don't know how the administration is. I honestly think Lane Kiffin's trying to get his ticket to the Gators.
Everyone keeps saying this, man. I don't know. Look, Lane doesn't like to recruit. And this is why I think that Florida is not a great spot for him. He can get away with recruiting the way he does at Ole Miss. He's going to have to put a lot more effort into recruiting at Florida.
So you're saying transfer portal is not the only thing you can do at Florida?
Correct. Yeah. You've got to have strong high school recruiting down there. I don't think that fan base is going to deal with Lane Kiffin putting such low effort into high school recruiting. Again, broken ugly down there at Ole Miss. They'll deal with that down there. They'll handle that because he's good enough at developing the talent that he has and getting at least above average results on the field that it'll fly.
Yeah.
And he always has a quarterback. Putting him at Florida, all that does is make Florida Ole Miss. That's it. If you're not going to recruit high school at a high level, you're not going to do any better down there than he's doing at Ole Miss right now.
And he may end up being another Dan Mullen because Dan Mullen could coach. He had 3 years of 18, 19, and 20 in which he made a New Year's Six bowl, just couldn't recruit. They fired him in 2021.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask him this question first because I know he's going to say the answer with delight. Alabama, Kalen DeBoer. What's your grade for them, Richard? I'm interested in hearing what your grade is for Kalen DeBoer for the Alabama Crimson Tide.
D-.
Jesus,
D-.
I don't know if I'm going that
here's the
low.
thing. You take Nick Saban out of the equation.
Okay. I like where you're
Then
going with this.
I think that he's in the same category as Dennis Francione
Jesus.
or Mike Shula.
Mike Price, too, would even coach it.
Well, he didn't even coach a single game at Alabama. The Alabama fans, they want excellence. They want to see what Nick Saban accomplished when he took over in 2007, winning the 6 national championships. I don't think it's ever going to happen in college football because of the transfer portal and NIL. Personally, I think that Kalen DeBoer is doing the best he can in an SEC school that you're going to get everybody's best shot. It's not Washington, but you lose to Vanderbilt. Nick Saban would never lose to Vanderbilt.
He lost to Louisiana Monroe. All right,
Yeah.
hold up.
Hold on now.
You're very low. That D-, Rich. Mike, you're smiling, and he's smiling too hard right now.
He is.
I'm going B-, okay?
B-?
B-, and hear me out on this, okay? For someone like Kalen DeBoer, who obviously is an incredible coach, X and O's, knows offense. I mean, you don't go to Washington, take Washington to a national championship. You're literally saying that's a flash in the pan. That's what you believe, and he just got hired at the right moment in time. Because let's say this, in my opinion, if he had stayed 6, 7 years at Washington, he would have still continued to be successful, and he still would have got a chance at Alabama. I'm thinking that, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, that if he'd stayed there long term, he doesn't know how to keep a program and sustain success. I can't say that, man. I'm sorry. I can't say that. B- right now. Yes, he's having a learning curve. Yes, he's struggling in, week out, keeping your team motivated. But I still feel like this team's going to go 9-3 or 10-2 and be in vying for a playoff position. Let him get his guys. I know how talented this team is, but I can't say C- or D-. Like, come on, man. You're going that low?
Yeah, I'm going C-. I'm not where Richard is at.
D-?
I'm going C.
Because D- is almost fireable, man.
Yeah, I'm going C-. But no coach in the history of college football has ever inherited a roster as talented as what he inherited.
Gus Malzahn 2013?
No, he did not.
Larry Coker in 2001?
Yeah, like you've never inherited a coach on the way in the door, first year.
Yeah.
He's got more talent than any coach in the history of college football. Nick Saban did not inherit a roster like that. He recruited it. So, yeah, he lost to La Monroe, but that's not equitable to Vanderbilt's loss this year with the talent that he had. Look, I asked Kalen DeBoer at SEC Media Days, what is your plan for these SEC defenses? Because it's different down here than it is in the Pac. So, yes, he had success at Washington, but the competition has to be considered. Mm-hmm. And we see this. There's a reason why the Pac regularly was getting left out of the playoff. And then when they did get in, they were getting scrubbed up by the better teams because they don't play anybody all year. And, yes, Washington took down Oregon twice. And when they ran into a real team, it was not a contest. Michigan had the defense to stop them. And that's every week in the SEC. Part of what people talk about the players, but not enough people talk about the coaching minds that you're going up against every week in the SEC. It's you've got the highest paid coaches in the country there, so you got to scheme against Brian Kelly, you got to scheme against Mike Elko. These teams are dropping buku bucks because They know they have to go out and they've got to find a coach who can scheme it up better than the other coach, and that is an absolute test every single week in this conference. When I asked him this question about the scheme and what their plan is, he had a kind of flippant answer that was like, well, we just, what we do is worked everywhere.
We do what we do.
Yeah. Well, now you're doing it, and look, there might be 2 more losses left on the schedule for Alabama. Don't write off the Iron Bowl, man. Like, remember, Hugh Freeze almost beat this Alabama team last year.
With Nick Saban.
Right. So, and he's gone. So you're not telling South Carolina went to Tuscaloosa and lost by 2 points.
And really should have won the game.
They could have won that game. This is not. I went on Paul Feinbaum, and I said this, and Alabama fans lost their minds on me. I said, it's not Saban's Alabama anymore. This is different. A lot of these teams see an opening with Saban retiring to go in here and take the mantle. It's wide open. It's no longer Alabama and Georgia and everybody else. So at the end of the day, this is a C- for me because Jalen Milroe finished the season last year as a fringe Heisman candidate.
He was in New York.
You know what I mean? And he's fallen out of the conversation before November under this coach.
And this guy was supposed to be a quarterback whisperer, too.
Yeah. Like, listen, I tried to tell DJ, like, look, man, don't hand him the Heisman just yet. Let's wait. And here we are. I think what Brian Kelly is doing with LSU, you know, he came in, he won the SEC West in his first year, right? He produced a Heisman in his second year. And look where they're at, man. If they win out, they're in the playoff. I like what a lot of SEC teams are doing. I think the conference has never had more parity. My guy Chris Phillips from SEC Unfiltered, he comes and we do a power ranking segment every week. And when you look at the bottom 5 in the conference, it's like these teams aren't even terrible.
They're not.
Yeah, right? Like, you got Florida down there in the bottom 5 in the conference. Yeah. We just talked about how they've exceeded expectations. Auburn doesn't have bottom 5 talent. Everybody knows this. Look how close those games are. Yeah, like I just said, they put 31 on Georgia.
Yeah.
So there's never been more parity. Kalen DeBoer is not the coach that stands tall above the rest. He's one that fits in the pack with the rest of the other good coaches. Jeez. And listen, man, and what that might mean 3 or 4 losses in some years. Alabama fans are not going to be used to that, but he's not Saban. I don't think he's ever going to be Saban. I think they need to get used to maybe missing that playoff regularly.
I believe he's going to be a great coach right now. Maybe I'm with you.
What's great, though? What's great?
Okay.
10 wins.
I think.
Every year? 10 wins automatic?
Yes, 9 or 10 wins. And let me say this. When I say great, I mean that I think he can adapt. You're telling me that he is not capable of adapting to the SEC, giving him 3 or 4 years, and he can't turn Alabama into at least a consistent contender. We're not talking 11-1, 12-0 like every single year with Nick Saban. There's only been a few coaches in the history of college football have done that. Bobby Bowden,
sure.
Nick Saban,
sure.
Steve Spurrier.
Okay.
And now Kirby Smart. I'm not going to say that Kalen DeBoer is going to do that, but you're telling me he can't get Alabama to a point 9 or 10 wins is very feasible every single season?
Can he and will he are 2 different conversations.
So what are you
right?
saying?
Yeah, right. And I'm saying that I want to wait and see.
Okay.
Because.
But right now, C- is saying he can't do that if he continues the way he's going.
He may not be a good fit.
Yeah. Well, C- is saying that the plan he had for this year was not the one to win the SEC. Right. Look, the ability to adapt was Saban's superpower. Let me take you back in time. Let's jump in the time machine with me.
2013.
Well, no, I'm going back further than that, right? Like when Saban took over Alabama, I think it was by year 2 he had a national title.
Yeah.
Right. And he produced a couple national titles, and things were going well. He had what I would term game managers at quarterback. That's not a negative term.
McCarron.
Yeah, like Greg McElroy, like those guys would win you championships. They wouldn't go out and win games for you, but they wouldn't lose them either.
Yeah.
After 2010, Cam Newton. And then a few years later, Nick Marshall, he realized we can no longer play 3 yards in a cloud of dust football on offense and continue to win championships because they were building it on defense, right? That 2012 Alabama defense that completely cleaned up Notre Dame in that title game is one of the best defenses I've ever seen.
No question.
Right? You can't win championships that way anymore. As a matter of fact, in 2010, that Ted Roof-led defense gave up more points than any national champion in the history of college football.
24 points a game.
Right. So my point is that he said, you know what, this is not going to work anymore. And when he went out and he hired Lane Kiffin as his offense coordinator, I was like, crap.
That's after he got fired on the tarmac in USC. the
Yeah,
year before.
and he said, I'm going to snatch this guy up. I said, crap, he figured it out. And then what happened to Alabama? No longer the Greg McElroys and A.J. McCarrons. They started producing dynamic quarterbacks.
Good point.
I mean, at one point, I think last year, Alabama had 4 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. That's crazy.
Yeah.
They became quarterback U, and they continued to win championships. And for a defensive guy, it was impressive to watch him go through that evolution. You know, one of the things that Saban does that I think they started this in 2015. So I'm dropping some Alabama tea here.
Yeah,
for you
here we
guys.
go. You didn't know he covered Alabama.
They had
yeah.
a personality test that they would do, and it would tell them whether your players were right brain or left brain thinker, right? And then the coaches take that same personality test and they match it up to see how you teach and how they learn, so you know how to get through to your players. High level stuff they're doing at Alabama to make sure. That's why they were developing so well. They were teaching specific to every player and how they learned. And so he knew how to talk to some guys and how not to talk to other guys. And I mean, he went deep into it. His process, the infamous process at Alabama, was legendary. And I'm not sure that Kalen DeBoer is there just yet. Can he? Sure. Will he? I mean, that's a matter of pride and ego for a lot of coaches. I think that Gus has suffered from it from a lot of years. It's like
still suffering.
Yeah, where again, can you let go? I want to call plays. I don't want to call plays. Right. Bro, pick a lane and stick to it and figure out what works today. These guys, they got where they got doing a certain thing, and it's harder to let go of that thing, I think, than you guys realize, right? Like,
100%.
Yeah, because he made it where he is today doing that.
Yeah.
And it's hard to abandon who you are. Changing who you are is very, very hard to do.
Especially who you are is how you got to where you are.
Correct.
And then it's hard to look in the mirror and say, now I got to adapt. But if the greatest of all time can do it, why can't everyone else? That's the big question.
People spend thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours in therapy because changing who you are is really, really hard to do, right? Like, you're a really good therapist and you need to reprogramming your mind is something that's difficult to do. If he can do that, I will be impressed. I'm just noting the difficulty in doing that.
Yeah. Right.
And look, and while you're trying to figure that out, everybody else around you is getting better. And so it's not just whether he can adapt, it's can he adapt well enough to beat everybody else who's also trying to adapt. I say this all the time in the SEC. If you're standing still, you might as well be moving backwards because everybody else is moving it forward.
It's the Georgia-Alabama Sports Live Show, live from Glynn Smith Chevrolet GMC. We are with Mike G from the War Report. Mike, before we let you go, I got to get your top 4 teams. I'm going to give you mine, Richard give yours, and then he'll be the closing for this segment. Number 1 team in America is Georgia. Number 2 is Oregon. They do got a good win against Ohio State. That Boise State win starting to look better because they're probably going to make the playoff in that group of 5, and they're undefeated. So got to put them at number 2. Number 3, I know me and Mike were talking about this off air. I got Ohio State. I know Ohio State has looked inconsistent week to week, but I think they're going to prove everybody as they are one of the top 3 teams in the country. I think they're going to handle business and win pretty easily against Penn State. I am not a believer in Penn State, and I'm not a believer in Drew Aller. No. I think he's going to make a ton of mistakes, and it's going to be Ohio State. Number 3 is Ohio State. Number 4 is Texas. I do not have Miami in my top 4.
That's
do not have Penn State in my top 4. It's hard to put Miami in your top 4 when they will go this entire regular season without playing one team, not even at the time they played them, ranked. That's pretty hard to do. Even in the ACC, when you got SMU ranked, Pittsburgh ranked, and Clemson ranked, and they don't play any 3 of those teams. Who are your top 4 teams?
Well, number 1, obviously Georgia. Number 2 is Ohio State. I think if Ohio State plays Oregon on a neutral field, they beat them.
I agree with you.
I think if Will Howard slides with 1 extra second, Ohio State kicks the field goal and they beat Oregon. Oregon is number 3.
Some Ohio State love here.
Wow, yeah.
Oregon's number 3 because I think Oregon is really good
Big
too.
Ten,
and then
Ten.
my number 4 team, I think it's going to be Texas A&M, just because Texas plays Texas A&M at the end of the season in the Lone Star Shootout.
What if that is to go to the SEC championship?
It's in
game?
College Station. I think the winner goes to Atlanta for the SEC championship.
First time they played.
And plays Georgia.
That's the first time they played since 2011. It could
That's
be
right.
It could be for the right to go to the SEC championship. That's pretty incredible. Top 4 teams, Mike.
My number 1 is Georgia. My number 2 is Georgia's second team. My number 3 is Georgia's scout team. And my number 4 is Georgia's 2025 recruiting class. Now, look, Georgia's the best team in the country. I think until somebody beats them in the regular season, not named Alabama.
There you go.
I'm sorry, man. Like they're my number one. After that, I'll give Oregon credit for now.
Okay.
But it's another one of those former Pac teams that have a great season and then they get to the playoff and they flub it.
Right.
My number 3, I know you guys are not believers, so I'm going to go the other direction because, again, Ohio State to me is another one of those teams where we fall for it every single year and then they get to the playoff and they fall off. I'm going to go with Penn State this year.
Okay.
I'm not with little conviction. Right? So I'm not really convicted about that because I think there's a lot of parity from 3 to 8 right now in the rankings. And then my 4 team is Texas. Look, I told the world Georgia was going to scrub them up. And people that all them nerds on College Game Day convinced them that Texas was going to beat Georgia and it was a changing of the guard and there's a new sheriff in town and all that foolishness they were talking. And Georgia came out and said, we're still top dogs and we're going to show you. And they did it in their house.
Yeah.
Come on, man. You know, Matthew McConaughey was looking sick on the sideline.
The minister of entertainment, what do they call him? Something like that?
Yeah. So all the crazy stars they had on the sidelines for that one. Big letdown. I mean, they had to throw water bottles on the field to get plays reversed.
Right.
Like, come on, man. But they're still supremely talented. And until such a time as, again, somebody not named Georgia beats them, I've got to have them at number 4 for right now. I think the SEC is primed still to get 4 teams in this playoff. As you mentioned, the third team, if you win out and you don't make the SEC championship, might be in a really, really good position to make this playoff and not have to play that extra game. Because if you're LSU and you got 2 losses, do you really want to make the SEC championship game? If you lose it, it might knock you out of the playoff.
Exactly, because remember they lost to USC. Texas A&M lost to Notre Dame, so they still have. Well, Texas A&M does not have an SEC loss. LSU's got 1.
Yeah. So if you're sitting there with 2 losses, you don't want to go to the SEC championship game because you're going to make the back end of that playoff as the number 3 team in the SEC with 2 losses. College football playoff with 12 teams has changed the math and thinking for a lot of teams.
It really has.
I like what you guys pointed out, though. Texas and Texas A&M playing for the first time since 2011, and it's for the right to go to the SEC.
Come on.
Look, Texas
Sign me up for
A&M
that.
wants this bad.
Yeah.
They want this bad because they want to prove that they left the SEC to get away from you, and you followed us here, and we whooped your ass in year 1. Come on, man. That's the stuff dreams are made of.
Especially for Texas A&M.
Yeah.
His name is Mike G. Mike, tell everybody where they can find you on social media and where they can find the War Report.
Follow me on Twitter at Mike Gittins, but also follow us. We're at the War Report on every social media platform. We're TW Report on TikTok. So follow us on YouTube. Join as a patron. And also do me a favor, guys. Go on over to Locked On UCF and hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers there in the next 3 weeks.
All right, his name is Mike G. Thank you so much for coming up here, man. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we got more. And I don't know if you know this, Richard. There's an opening for a 7A high school around our area.
It's
We're
a good
going to
job.
talk about this job
Yeah.
and how if they get the right man, maybe it becomes a continuing position.
Absolutely.
Georgia Alabama Sports Live. She'll be right back after this.
Glynn Smith Chevrolet is loaded with over 500 new and used on the lot and on the way. Check out the big Chevy Silverado 2500 HDs, discounted up to $9,000 off. And you'll love the stylish SUV that has plenty of room for the whole family. Chevy Tahoe's up to $9,000 off. Come to Glynn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika for big discounts with a fantastic selection. Or explore anytime, anywhere at glennsmith.com.
Get ready to smile.
Georgia Alabama Sports Live wants to say thank you to one of our presenting sponsors, Buffalo Rock, and their partnership with everything that we do. And without business like Buffalo Rock, we wouldn't be able to go cover softball, volleyball games, every type of high school sport you can think of, local college games, and professional. So thank you to those businesses that support us, and specifically Buffalo Rock. And next time you're watching a Georgia Alabama Sports Live broadcast after a nice long day, why not enjoy it with a nice, refreshing Sorry? The best lemon lime soda around. Thank you to Sorry and Buffalo Rock for our partnership on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Football is back, and the only thing that makes it better is some delicious food from Zaxby's. They're a proud sponsor of Georgia-Alabama Sports Live. And I can tell you that everyone on this team loves their chicken. Get all the favorites, such as their signature chicken sandwich, or try the new chicken finger tacos with your favorite drink. From amazing salads, wings, chicken fingers, and some of the best drinks around, there isn't a better way to enjoy our broadcast without getting some fantastic meals from Zaxby's. Check out the two here in Phoenix City, one off Crawford Road and the other on US 80. Thank you again to Zaxby's for sponsoring Georgia-Alabama Sports Live, and make sure you call them for all your catering and tailgating needs this football season.
Glynn Smith Chevrolet is loaded with over 500 new and used on the lot and on the way. Check out the big Chevy Silverado 2500 HDs, discounted up to $9,000 off. And you'll love the stylish SUV that has plenty of room for the whole family. Chevy Tahoe's up to $9,000 off. Come to Glynn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika for big discounts with a fantastic selection. Or explore anytime, anywhere at glynsmith.com.
Get ready to smile.
My name is Sergeant Jason Swells, and this is my CVCC story. Class sizes were not too large. The professors in each class had time to talk. It was almost like a one-on-one experience. One of my daughters is a student at CVCC right now. She's going through the arts program. I've got another son who's right behind her who's about to graduate school, and he's already talking about going to CV, and he's ready for it. CVCC did prepare me for my career. They made sure you knew the subject before you walked out of the class, before you took the test. They dedicated 100% of themselves to it. It was a great experience, and I could say for anybody who's deciding or thinking about going into criminal justice, CVCC has got my vote all day long because they're on top of their game.
Welcome back to the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. Thrift Behringer, Richard Holdridge, live from the Glynn Smith Chevrolet GMC showroom.
Get ready to smile.
Just saw one of my favorite GMs, Jared Hudson, one of the best guys in the business. Thank you to Jerry. My guy Kenny, who helped us get the signs up. We appreciate everybody, all the staff here at Glynn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Always hospitable, always make us feel welcome, and that's what you're going to feel like when you come here to buy the car or truck of your dreams. Think about this. When you're buying a new car or truck, Richard, you're making an investment for a long time, the next 10 to 15 years. When you're doing something like that and you're putting a lot of money and effort and you're going to spend a lot of time at a dealership, you want to make sure that person, whoever's helping you out, is not going to take advantage of you. You're not going to get that feeling here, I promise, and you're always going to leave with a smile. I would not recommend anywhere else than coming to Opelika to get your car or truck of your dreams.
Every time I come here, it feels like family. Everybody on the staff is so hospitable, and they're wanting to put the car of your choice. They want you to be in the car of your dreams, and you could test drive one on the lot. I mean, they got a lot of great vehicles on the lot. And I always appreciate just their hospitality every time I come here.
Yeah, me too, Richard. And it's just been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun here. Thank you to Mike G from the War Report for coming on and hanging out with us here for our live show at Glynn Smith. But, Richard, it was a big breaking news that dropped.
I saw it.
Smith Station fired, or had their coach, not fired, excuse me.
He left.
He left and resigned as the head coach, Coach Garrison, after 2 years and a 1-19 record. Smith Station, in my opinion, is a place where, if all things are going right, can be at least a contending team in 7A. Now,
absolutely.
They play in a region that's got Carver Montgomery that's good, Enterprise that's good, Opelika that's really good, Central that's great, and Auburn that's great. 4 of those teams have to make it, and you still got Jag and then Smith Station. Maybe they need to think about, because the school's so big, they're not going to reclassify them to 6A. But in their prime, this team can win 5 or 6 games. That's all we're asking. A team that can contend, compete every week. What I saw from Smith Station this year is a team that is not competing, man. They're not even close to being anywhere near. Like, playing against Shaw, a 2A school, that needs to be a win.
Absolutely.
Okay? Playing against Jefferson Davis, that needs to be a win. Valley, a 5A school. Or not Jefferson Davis, Jag, they say. That needs to be a win. They didn't win a game this year.
Unbelievable.
So I'm hoping that this job and whoever is hiring over there, the AD, Shanna Johnson, they go out and find the right man that can take this program and get them to the point where they're at least competitive against the Central, competitive against Auburn. I'm not talking about upsetting them, but my goodness, what has happened with Smith Station these last couple years is it's been a tragedy, man, and it's been sad. And I'm hoping that this will be the sign for, and again, nothing taken away from Coach Harrison, Coach Garrison, but it just wasn't the right fit, and now they need to find who that right fit's going to be. But you cannot tell me that if they found the right guy, Richard, there's plenty of talent there to still be competitive.
They could go either 2 ways. They could go get the big hire, maybe an assistant coach at a college football team, Auburn, Alabama, Troy, or they could get one of these top assistants that is ready for a head coaching job now. But what needs to happen is they need to establish a culture, and they need to establish a philosophy, and they need to get kids to buy into their program, and they got to build up a staff. The talent is in the area. You see around Smith Station, Glenwood's doing good. Russell County, Central, Opelika, Beulah's making the playoffs. Valley.
It's competitive.
Beauregard. They're all making the playoffs, but Smith Station can't even compete in these games. So the expectations, all we're asking for is 4 to 5 wins just to build up that improvement. The fan base is there. They got passionate fans, and they also have very good facilities. I do think that there will be talent that will want to play at Smith Station, and not only play at Smith Station, but establish a legacy. I mean, you look at what players have done at places that don't traditionally are known for football, and I think that if they could just get the right people in there and the right players, I think that Smith Station will at least be competitive. We're not asking Smith Station to beat Central, Auburn, and Opelika every year. We
But
just
at least
wanna,
be competitive.
We want to see them competitive.
When was the last time Smith Station beat Central?
2008.
Been a long time, but at least from 08 to 15, there were times where they were competitive. They scored. The games were close. You're 6 touchdown underdogs against the Centrals and the Auburns of the world.
Yeah.
That can't happen, man. Something's got to change over there, and hopefully they'll establish a culture, whoever this next head coach is going to be, because, again, baseball won a state championship a few years ago. They made it to the
2015.
Final Four just 2 years ago.
The flag
against
football team
Central.
went to
Right. They got a good basketball team that's competitive, that's made deep runs. A few years ago, made a deep run all the way to the Elite Eight. The softball program's great. The volleyball program's competitive. The only program that it feels like it's just a step behind, even within their own school, is football. That's got to change, and I'm hoping, like I said, I want all the teams in our area to be competitive. I don't want any team to be struggling, but right now Smith Station is light years behind a lot of the top schools, like you made mention, Auburn and Central.
I do want to say this. I cannot say his name, but I am friends with somebody who is an assistant who expressed interest in the job. That's all I could say. I mean, so there are assistants out there that would love to be the next head football coach at Smith Station, and I think they would just do an outstanding job.
All right, let us continue going. We'll move on from Smith Station. Again, that was the breaking news. We'll see who gets that job. But moving forward now, we got a couple games this coming week. We kind of previewed it on Sunday. We got Pacelli hosting Mount DeSales in the first round of the GIAA playoffs. And then we're also going to have Glenwood hosting Sylacauga, trying to go undefeated in back-to-back regular seasons in their first year 3A of the AHSAA. So those are going to be the 2 games we're going to be doing. We'll have game day live from the Campus Academy Fall Festival, 5 to 8 p.m. If you've got nothing else going on, 4361 Weems Road. Bring the kids. Come have some fun. We got a bunch of great things that are going to be happening, so please come out and show the Campus Academy some support. But there's other games going on. You got Northside hosting Central, even though Northside been eliminated. Harris County's on a bye. Central, and that's Central of Carrollton, Northside
Central Carrollton, yeah.
Central High School is also done with their regular season, and playoffs start next week for Alabama, the week after for Georgia. Any other games you're kind of looking at? We'll start, I guess, with Pacelli and Mount DeSales. I think Pacelli's going to win this by a couple touchdowns. Mount DeSales really should have lost to Calvary. They won 7-6 in that game. I'm going to go Pacelli wins this 35-14. I'll give predictions again on Friday. I may change my mind, but I think Pacelli's going to walk away with this, and then they're going to head to next week against Bullock Academy and maybe trying to get an upset as a 7 seed.
Absolutely. It's a light schedule this week, because Central, their season is over. Russell County is on the road taking on Beauregard. I want to see how many more touchdowns Bryson Riggins is going to throw, because I think that he could end up breaking a school record. I think he might already have the school record for touchdown passes.
Yeah, he does. 32 touchdowns.
32 touchdowns. Yeah, so he could just exceed that. He's third in passing in the entire state of Alabama. He is third in passing yards.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible what he's doing there.
And I've been impressed by far with Bryson Riggins, Russell County. I think they're going to finish 8-2. Then they're going to get a big win, and they're going to host a couple at least one playoff game.
Yeah, first time since 1998.
And get their first win in the playoffs since 1998.
Yeah.
First time they made it since then, and they also got a win back then. They were a 10-win team that year, made a couple wins, and made it to the Elite 8 or Sweet 16 that season. So we'll see what happens with Russell County. Excited about that. We got Media Day, by the way, Basketball Media Day this Sunday, live from the Beck Center, starting at 1 o'clock. Me and Richard will preview with Coach Corey Black everything that's going to happen. It won't be our preview show. We'll do that the next Sunday.
Right.
Or later next week, maybe sometime next week, we'll have a preview show. We'll let you know. But next week, this upcoming Sunday is Basketball Media Day. 16 schools plus CVCC, all representing boys and girls programs. We're going to have a coach, a couple players. Looking forward to doing it. 3rd straight year, the Courier Ecolatina Basketball Media Day. And this time, for the 2nd straight year, Georgia Alabama Sports Live is hosting it.
I'm really looking forward to Basketball Media Day for the simple fact that we've had so much basketball talent come out of this city. You saw the success of the Glenwoods winning a state championship, Pacelli boys and girls winning a state championship, Harris County going to the quarterfinals, Carver boys and girls going to the Final Four, and of course the Hardaway girls. They were so close to winning that first ever state championship. But, they could just build off of that. Hardaway's getting everybody back. And then according to Kyle Sandy, our guy from Sandy Spell, that he has ranked 3 players on Hardaway as some of the top players in the state: Michaela Johnson, Adasia Burrell, and A.K. Shelton. And then, by the way, Tony Montgomery is listed as the 7th best point guard in the state, according to Kyle Sandy.
I can't wait. We got Hardaway going to be there. We got Columbus High. We got all the Muskogee County schools. We got
I'm so excited.
Pacelli, Calvary, and Glenwood. We got Brookstone also going to be there. We got Smith Station. We got Central. We got Russell County. And then CVCC. And the only place you're going to get it?
Right here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live.
So look forward to seeing you 1 o'clock, and it's probably going to go for 7 hours. It's a long day for us at Georgia Alabama Sports Live.
Yeah,
I'm going to feed my guys, Richard, Chris, Toy Guard. We're going to have a lot of fun like we did last year.
We're going to take breaks.
We're going to take breaks. We at least got Corey Black. We're going to have other local media members that are going to be there covering it, but looking forward to that on Sunday. In softball, Northside and Harris County. Give us some updates. You went down to South College. What's happening in the Georgia High School Association softball?
I was down there. By the way, Northside was supposed to play at 3. They didn't get started until about 4:30 because the game before them went over into extra innings. Northside, they get the win. A big win. I actually looked at the schedule, and Harris County beats Ola 3-2. So Northside and Harris County both advance. They will play in the second round. If they win tomorrow, they could be playing each other at the main stadium
for the Winners Bracket Championship.
For the Winners Bracket Championship on Friday at 5 o'clock. I mean, imagine. I mean, there was a lot of fans there anyway.
And they could be rematch in the state championship game.
That's a possibility too. But I thought that was a great event. Mary Sherman, David Boyd do a great job. The Columbus Sports Council. A lot of schools. The whole Civic Center had not just every parking spot was taken. They had campers. People were just traveling from long
but you got to
distance.
think about it, Rich. It's 6 classification, 8 teams.
Lot of
48
schools.
teams, 48 schools that are here in Columbus, Georgia. It's a big event for Georgia, just like it was for the GIAA.
But the local school, Schley County, was in it. LaGrange, unfortunately, lost to West Lawrence earlier today. But then congratulations to Northside and Harris County for winning and advancing into the winner's bracket tomorrow.
Well, looking forward to it. We're going to have coverage live if they do play at 5 o'clock on Friday. Rick Beach will be there covering that. You'll be doing game day with me, and then you're going to go call that Pacelli Mount DeSales game. But I'm really hoping for our city and for our Tri-City area, and I would have loved to have it on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. We can't. If we get a Northside, Harris County, winner's bracket championship, and then the state championship
Absolutely.
on Saturday. That's what everyone
That's the dream.
needs. Give us this, please, on softball. But Coach Carasori, Abby Lovell, fantastic program for Northside. They're trying to go, is it three-peat, Richard?
They're trying to three-peat.
And Harris County's trying to get their first state
They're going to have to change that
in
T-shirt.
program history.
I saw a lot of T-shirts that said back-to-back. They're going to have to get a new T-shirt if Northside three-peats.
But here's a caveat for those who don't know. Brandon Jenkins was a coach for those back-to-back state champions.
That's
Coach
right.
Carasori was an assistant. She's done a great job. They're 30-2. They've won like 20-something games in a row.
8th in the state.
Eighth in the
in
country.
the nation.
Number 1 team in the state. Northside against Harris County.
Wow.
We want it. Coach
Let's
Jenkins
get it.
against his former team in the state championship game. Give it to us, please. Georgia Alabama Sports Live. We are presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC.
Get ready to smile.
Also, Gordy Eye Care, the official eye care of Georgia Alabama Sports Live, and obviously Pepsi. Thank you to Buffalo Rock and Pepsi for their support of what we do. We're also home to CVCC Pirate Athletics. We're going to get all CVCC athletics starting in the month of November all the way until the end of the year. We got basketball, both teams, girls and boys. We got baseball and softball, and looking forward to covering all of them. We are the exclusive home for CVCC athletics here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, and we just started a new thing. We're going to be covering CSU, and we just had Coach Jay Etlick on as his Cougar soccer team ranked number 2 in the country. Let's get a national championship for the Cougars, man.
Let's finally get one.
And they're going to be hosting the Peach Belt Conference Tournament, which we're going to have a live show when that happens. But how was your conversation with Jay, which you can find Keeping Up with CSU Athletics every week on Georgia Alabama Sports Live? Just dropped last night. I know you had a lot of fun talking with Coach.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've had a long relationship with Coach Entlick. I've interviewed him before when I was the commentator for the Rapids. I mean, it was a great partnership, and he has just built a national power. I mean, as far as great soccer players, Emma Badeau is his senior leader who leads the team in goal scoring with 7 on the year. I mean, they're 13-0-1. They have one tie. It was against Lenore Rhine. But I think that this team, because they have just a good core group of players, of veterans and new players, can win a championship. They got close. 2015, they went to the championship. Of course, I called that game in the Elite Eight when they were down 3-1 to West Florida, and they punched their ticket to the Final Four in 2022. But great conversation with Coach Entlick, and I'm looking forward to talking to Coach Hauser, Coach Moore, Coach Appleton, on keeping up with CSU athletics. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun, and we look forward, like you said, Richard, to covering them throughout the year. Friday, again, game day at 5. Then we have 2 games, Pacelli, Mount Lascelles, and Glenwood, Sylacauga. And then at 11 o'clock every single Friday until November the 20, I guess November 15th would be the last one.
Yeah.
We are going to have the GIAA scoreboard show in which we update you everything that's happened in the GIAA. This is the first round of the playoffs for 4A. You got 3A, 2A, and 1A finishing up their regular season. So you're going to want to tune in at 11 o'clock on GIAA.tv and the GIAA Facebook page. We always have a lot of fun, Richard. Our game of the week this week is Valwood and Tift area. That's number 2 Valwood against number 3 Tift area. Shout out Brent Taylor. His Westfield Hornets are ranked
number one. How about that?
We could have a Westfield representing in the state championship game, which we will be at November 21st through the 23rd. And again, you can catch all that on GIAA.tv. But we are looking forward to Basketball Media Day. Can you believe it, Richard?
I can't.
We're
believe
already here. As you may mention, just another, before we wrap up the show, news and notes. Carver comes in as a Final Four team from last year.
Yeah.
They return everyone and even added more talent like TJ Woodson,
Yeah.
who was an all-world, all-by-city player in middle school last year. Carver, obviously one of the favorites, according to Sandy Spill, too, and as they should be. They're my favorite in 2A.
No question.
And they could have a football and basketball state championship and this year. That in the sports calendar, that's pretty incredible. Spencer, they're ranked top 5, top 7 in the Sandy Spill rankings.
Yeah.
They did lose a lot
Kerry
of
Griffin,
talent.
great shooter.
Yeah.
They got Kerry Griffin.
Yeah,
they
but
got DeMarcus Horn.
and 24-4 last year.
Yeah.
They're going to be much improved. You got Hardaway. They lost a lot of seniors. It's going to be kind of a rebuilding year for Coach Mills, but I see them being competitive. Pacelli comes off a state championship run last year. They look really good in Fall League, Richard.
They really
and how about
did.
the Glenwood Gators after Coach Purdue making it to back-to-back Final Fours, winning 4 state championships, 7 total when he was in the AISA. Now moving to the AHSAA. What's going to happen with them? Levi Pender's healthy. Got McCrane, Jadarian Holloway, who we call Swag, is back. Central, they got Jadance Ford, who was the GIAA Player of the Year at Pacelli last year and helped them win a state championship. Maybe he's that missing piece to get Central over the hump and winning a state championship. They still got Hill. They still got Dawson. They still got Jonah Jones. There's so much talent around here. And don't let me forget about Russell County and Coach Battle's team, because they're always competitive, and they won the region championship last year.
Thrift, I mentioned to you the other day, I think that we should have our high school basketball preseason ratings. I can't wait to actually.
Oh, it's going to drop.
I'm
when we
trying
do
to
our
come
preview
up with.
show.
I'm trying to come up with the list. I mean, because even a team like Northside that is rebuilding, getting a guy like Xavier Davies. I talked to Morgan Egram, the athletic director at the softball field. I know they're excited about Xavier Davies, the X-Man as they call him, playing for Northside in Coach Greg Johnson. I cannot wait.
Yeah, I can't wait either, Richard. And we're going to have a preview show with me, you, and Coach Corey Black. He's going to be an analyst all basketball season long, so looking forward to him joining us. He's not coaching anymore. He's going to be part of Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Look forward to doing that. But it kicks off the season this Sunday for Basketball Media Day. Well, we've had a lot of fun here, Richard, as we always do. Any other thing you want to update us on? Bronny James being an All-NBA player this year? As Aunt Edwards said,
I do have.
don't
I
even
do
take
have
a shower, man.
a couple of rants. The Yankees fan who ripped the ball out of Mookie Betts' glove, he needs to be banned for life.
Oh, he's not banned for life, but they did say he is
needs to.
banned for Game 5.
He needs to be banned for life.
But that didn't change the game. I mean, they lost 8-11 before.
You cannot do that. And then his friend holding Mookie Betts' oh my.
They should both be banned.
Both be banned. And then I'm sorry. I got to make fun of Dwayne Wade's statue. It's hilarious.
And that's where we'll end the show right there. But I want to say this, because unsolicited hot take that'll be dropping tomorrow. It's not the only statue that is poop. I mean, and not even representing him. The face doesn't look anything like him. It scares me when I look at it. It still gives me nightmares thinking about Dwayne Wade's face in the statue. How about AI? He got a statue that was all of 3'4". Talking about disrespectful. Kobe Bryant, I'm still sick to my stomach that they did Kobe like that because it wasn't even close. That didn't look nothing like Kobe, but I'm starting to realize it's hit or miss with these statues. We've seen bad ones. We've seen good ones.
Ed Reed.
I honestly think it's hard to mess up football because they're wearing a helmet, so you really can't see their face. Bo Jackson, Cam Newton over at Auburn. And I think Auburn's done a really good job. Frank Thomas, Charles Barkley. I enjoyed looking at theirs, and they turned out pretty good. But, man,
That's so funny.
Dwayne Wade and his reaction with his son, Zaire, when he looked at him, it was like, what kind of crap is that? And then we're talking a multi-billion-dollar organization in Miami. You couldn't do better than that. There's no one out there that can make these statues.
Whoever made Ed Reed's statue.
Yeah, which was really good.
Yeah.
Not Dwayne Wade. But honestly, this is what Dwayne Wade gets. He's got to be better, man. And you know what? I'm not even going to say that. I actually like Dwayne Wade and Noah Eagle when they did the Olympics. He actually is pretty fun. I enjoy listening to him. Yeah, he's a good commentator. I take him over Reggie Miller at this point. Maybe he's going to be the new Reggie Miller. Who knows? I gave, and I'm going to give next week in my NBA predictions on unsolicited hot take. We're also going to start in November now that football season has slowed down, and now there's no more volleyball and softball. We're going to start adding another Georgia Alabama Sports Live show to talk NBA, college basketball, talk the Hawks, who got off to a kind of a slow start. They're 2-2 right now. I'm not giving any predictions. I'm not overreacting until it gets to November. Can we at least get to November and then we kind of talk about these teams, man?
It's still early.
Only thing I am going to say is Bronny James should not be playing not one more minute in the NBA this year. He is not ready. Go argue with your mama. And I was so wrong on Colorado. They may finish 10-2 this year, and they have a chance to make the playoff. I'm sick to my stomach because I don't want to hear Prime. Because if they make the playoff, he's never gonna live it down.
No.
But these teams are good. Shadir can play. Travis Hunter, and if you look at their schedule, let me pull their schedule up because I know they just blew out Cincinnati, and the Big 12. Other than Kansas State, who they already lost to, Iowa State, who's undefeated, BYU.
But the thing is, BYU and Iowa State could all go undefeated. They can meet in the Big 12 championship, and they both could go into that championship both undefeated.
Now, I don't think Colorado's going to make it. They are ranked coming into this week, Richard.
Yeah. First time this season.
Yeah, first time this season. They're ranked number 23. They are 6-2. They are much improved. You got to give Prime credit. And maybe he rides this hot streak and goes somewhere else because if Shadur leaves, I don't see this team being very good next year with Travis Hunter. But looking at Colorado, who do they finish up with, Richard? I can't. All right. It's at Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. All those are winnable games. And they didn't play. They lost to Kansas State, and they don't play BYU or Iowa State. So they technically could finish 10-2. I don't think they're going to have 3 Big 12 teams making the playoff this year.
No, probably not.
I don't. And if they're going to have 2, it's going to be one of Ohio State, BYU, or Kansas State. But still a good season for Colorado. And knowing them, they may put them in a New Year's Six bowl or one of those big bowl games just because it's Colorado and they love Deion Sanders. Well, his name is Richard Holdridge. I'm Thrift Banjo. Thank you to Chris Gates. Thank you to Mike G. We'll see you next time on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. Good night, everyone.